Hello everyone. So many years ago, I received a phone call and I was told that this person I had known was ill, was sick and in hospital. Okay, what happened? I wasn't given much details at that time. And eventually I found out that the person had a stroke. Okay, so I was trying to communicate with this person. There was slurry speech. The person was bedridden for a while, and I was just trying to understand what was going on because I was just in my first year of uni, way far away from home in England. And then I found out that, yeah, it was my dad. So, every 2 seconds, somebody in the world has a stroke. As many as 100 million people around the world live with stroke-related disabilities. In the UK, there are about 1.4 million people that have a stroke. And sadly, for a lot of these people that have these disabilities, about 50% are unable to use their arms or their legs as they used to. So it is a serious problem, and the recommended therapy time, for example, in the UK is 45 minutes of needed therapy. So if, for example, somebody's speech is affected, they will need speech therapy. If somebody's cognition is affected, they will need some cognitive kind of therapy. Or if their ability to use their arms or their legs are affected, they will need some kind of physical or occupational therapy. So if 45 minutes of therapy is recommended, the reality is people get less than 8 minutes of recommended therapy. So what are we going to do about this? That is what part of my PhD is about. We call the arms, the technical term for it is the upper extremity. If we're able to get people to use their arms, it will help them to be able to carry out activities of daily living that they've lost by being affected by a stroke. For example, if somebody is unable to walk as they used to before having the injury, but they're able to hold the Zimmer frame, then they can put the frame in front and walk and then help them to be less dependent on their carers. The thing with stroke is it doesn't just affect the people that had the stroke, it also affects their family. It changes the dynamics of the whole family life, and it has a lot of cost and implications for even the economy, because a lot of things have to change it. It's like a knock-on effect. So upper extremity rehabilitation, there is something called serious games. How many of us play games? Yeah? How do you know you've won? Well, you should know that if you're going to win or not. Are you playing the games just for fun? Well, yeah, you are playing for fun, but there should be some kind of indication, right? Yeah? Okay, give me a game. Mario, thank you, somebody in the audience. But there's a kind of challenge in every game, right? And there's a reward system, and there's a score, and there's a kind of feedback that you know by interacting with those gaming elements. So in the field of serious games, we take what is typical in a gaming setting for entertainment and put it in the context for either education or rehabilitation. That's why it's called serious. It's not because it doesn't have a sense of humor, it's just because it's not an entertaining kind of game. In my research, I use virtual reality, immersive virtual reality. You know those cool headsets? How many of you watched Avatar when they had it in the 3D? Yeah, was it terrifying? Yeah? You really felt you were in there, right? So immersion has a great effect. We've seen so far in research that having exercises and games in an immersive setting has shown promising outcomes compared to just maybe a 2D game. Compare your experience just watching a film in a cinema, just on the screen, as opposed to wearing the 3D, what do you call it? Glasses, yeah. So in my research, I am combining all of this. Now, if I tell you to stretch out your arm, all of you, put it back. Can you do that 10 times? Okay, different kinds of speed. Okay, what do you feel? This stable, what do you feel? Nothing? Maybe your feet. Is anybody tired yet? Anybody tired yet? Anybody fatigued? Yeah? So imagine doing this. Would you get bored? That is the reality of people with stroke. They can be told in a physical therapy session, stretch out your arms, pick up a cup, pick up a glass, and it can get boring, it can get monotonous, it can get fatigue-inducing. So I use the elements of gaming, like fun, like rewards, like feedback, different kinds of audio, and combine all of this and use a technology called virtual brain-computer interface that allows us to see the states of their brain, the brain signals, and integrate those so that We try as much as possible to delay the onset of fatigue because we wanted to be engaged in the game for as long as possible. The goal of therapy is time. The more time they spend in therapy, the more their chances of making a recovery and the more chances of them coming back to as normal life as possible. So I'm going to show you one of my games, which is called the grab game, where they pick up a virtual cup, go through a trajectory, and drop it at the other side. So you see typical elements of gaming. I have a feedback system. They can see the score. Once you pick up the cup, the balls are instantiated on the trajectory. And actually during the experimental session, I tested this in healthy people and also people with stroke. We were able to track the distance of their arm from the trajectory as well as how smooth the movement is. This is being done by a healthy person, but by a person with stroke, the experience is completely different. You can see, so the person is unable to support the arm just like that, so he had to use the other arm to be able to move it on the trajectory. But they quite liked it. They quite liked seeing that there was an outcome of what they were doing instead of just a standard therapy session in the gym saying pick up a cup. They liked seeing that. They liked the audio. They had a very positive attitude towards it, which was very encouraging. There was what we call the span game. So in this game, they pick up a virtual sponge and 3 concentric circles of balls are instantiated, and you keep on making this movement while you're exercising the shoulders, you're exercising the joints, and you could see this was a healthy person, this is a person with stroke trying to do that. You could see they were supporting their arms, but they were very enthusiastic, they were very willing to try to give it a go. And then the last one we call the grip game. So for this person, the aim of this game is to train this movement, which we call pronation and supination, and it's turning a virtual oven knob in this direction. And what some people liked about it, somebody said that it's a knob. I like cooker knobs. So some people found it relatable, yes, that an object in the kitchen could be translated to something in a gamified form to help people with stroke. So think about this. If about 100 million people in the world are living with stroke-related disabilities, and if at least 50% of such people have their arms affected, but we're able to create a system that will enable them restore these movements that have been lost in such a fun way, we're able to potentially increase the time they spend in therapy, potentially give them more chances at recovery, and at the end of the day, we're able to help them to live as normal lives as possible, reducing their dependence on carers and improving the quality of life of everyone. Thank you.